Today, artificial intelligence is everywhere. It's applied to text, to audio, to video, images, and so on and so forth. But for us, how we can take advantage of that. So because it's not only about using a chat model or like chatting with the UI like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Claude, and so on and so forth, but how we can integrate this AI power and these powerful tools provided by this artificial intelligence into our applications. And let's say, for example, we have an application implemented using the best framework in the world, of course, Spring framework. And we want to add some AI features or like some AI capabilities to our application, like for example, chatting or like providing some extra information, providing some more context, replying to some frequently asked questions about the platform or like the software as a service or the platform as a service that you are providing, and so on and so forth. In today's video, I'm going to guide you step by step to this new word. I mean the Spring AI integration. Some might say Spring is only using AI, so it's only calling the REST APIs for OpenAI, for example, but trust me, and just watch the video until the end and you will find out it's not only about that, because Spring adds and provides us with a lot of smart things that we can use and also ready to use implementations and tools which will make communicating and having a conversation or retrieving data from an AI model really smooth and precise. So in this video, we will dive and we will go step by step through the AI integration, how we can integrate and communicate with the model. Also, how we can stack the different prompts, what are the different prompts, what are the different prompt roles that we can use, what is the use case of each of them, and also we will see how we can convert the data provided by the AI model, because it's not only about, or like we don't want to just build a new or like rebuild a chatbot because we already have plenty of them, but we want to get the best out of this information provided by the AI. So this is the last part of this video, which is the conversion or like the converters provided by Spring in order to convert the different responses provided by the AI model to the expected representation that we need in order to perform other actions after we receive the response. So before we start, if you are new to this channel, just don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up for this video so we can help spread it and we can help share this video and reach as max as possible from techies and people who want to learn Spring and AI and all what goes around this tech stack. So with no further ado, let's get started. Alright, so first of all, let's go to platform.openai.com and then it will point you automatically to the dashboard or like to the documentation overview. So here you can see or like you can browse the different models, start building, and you have some examples. And also here you can see on the right hand side, you can see the different models available, also the pricing and so on and so forth. So like here you can see for each model how much it costs. So then we have here on the top right, we have dashboard. So when we go here and then I will go to usage. So the only thing like using OpenAI is not 100% for free. You just need to put some money. So for my case, I just put it only $5. And as you can see, since I started testing and using OpenAI locally, I only consumed $0.04, which is really nothing. So when you want to use it, just put in $5, which is the minimum required. And then you will be able to use the OpenAI API just really for almost for free. You just, as I mentioned, you just need to put in minimum of $5. So then the first thing that we want to do is to go to API keys, and then we have, so here you can see the different keys that I have, and then all you need to do is to create a new secret API. Just give it a name, which is really optional, but for example, here I will create YouTube demo, for example, and then just click on create secret key and it will automatically generate the secret. So let's do it again together. So here, one thing, don't use this one because I will just revoke it after finishing this tutorial. So just go ahead and copy it. And then what we will be doing later on is we will go and use this one within our Spring project. But before going there, let's have a look on the Spring AI documentation. So here, all you need to do is to go to spring.io/projects and then /Spring AI. and it will point you here. So as you can see here, Spring AI is an application framework for AI engineers. Its goal is to apply the AI domain Spring ecosystem design principles such as portability and modular design, and promote using POJOs as the building blocks of an application to AI domain. So Spring really encapsulates and provides us with so many tools in order to easily use and communicate with different AI models. So for this example, as I mentioned, we will be using OpenAI, but you can also link it with any available LLM or like any other AI model that you want to use. So here also you can see the different features, and down here, so let me zoom in. So down here, when you see documentation, you have this extensive reference documentation, sample applications, and workshop and courses material. So let's go ahead and open this one. And in here first, like, you can search for anything. So for example, if you are trying out things and you want to search for it, just hit the search here and type what you want to look for. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and see and like read the different documentation. But if you find it a bit complicated and overwhelming, don't worry, because I will be creating so many videos about AI and Spring AI integration mainly. So don't worry about that. So then what we need to do is we will create a first project that will communicate, or like that will connect our Spring Boot application to OpenAI API. So like we will be able to directly communicate with our AI model. So usually, you know, my principle is always I go to start.spring.io and create a project from here. So, but now I will just do it differently. I will use IntelliJ. So I think I would like to show you a different way how to do that also. So let's open IntelliJ, and here when you just click on this new project, you will see this pop up right here. So here just type the name of your project, and by the way, it uses already start.spring.io. All right. So here let's go ahead first and create our project demo. So for example, let's say AI with Spring. So AI with Spring as a project name. Let's choose Maven as a type. And then here all we need to do is to specify the group ID, the artifact, and so on and so forth. So here we'll just change the package name. So it will be AI.spring or like Spring AI, something like that. So I will just name it Spring-AI. And then for the Java, just feel free to choose any version, but let's choose maybe version number 21. So here I think we cannot add dashes to the package name. And then let's click on next. So for this one, we will mainly need two dependencies. The first one is the web dependency, because we need to expose some REST APIs. And then let's search for AI. And here, if you don't find it directly, just search for OpenAI. All right, so here just select this OpenAI option, and here you will find the available dependencies that we chose is Spring Web and Spring and OpenAI. So then let's click on create, and let's first have a look at the project. So let's create the project. So I have it in here. Let me open it. So this is the README file, which is like automatically generated, and here it's like a classic Spring Boot project, so like nothing really fancy in here. So let's have a look on the pom.xml file. So here we see the metadata that we already specified, and if you scroll a bit down, you see here that the version, or like the current version that I'm using right now, is Spring AI version 1.0.0-M8. All right, and here we see the two different dependencies that we just added. So here we have the group ID, the group ID for the first dependency, which is Spring Web, and the other one, it's a different group ID. So you need to be careful in here if you are adding the dependencies manually. So here we have the group ID is org.springframework.ai. So here it's boot, but here it's AI. And here we have Spring AI starter model OpenAI. So next thing is we will go to main and then resources. So the first thing, I will just make this one as a YAML representation. You know, I prefer YAML representation. And let's fix this one. So application name, and then it will be AI with Spring, for example. So in here, one thing that we need to do. First of all, I will click in here and then I will go to edit configurations. All right, and in here you see that you have modify options, and if you go a little bit in the middle, you see environment variables. When you click on this one, you will be able to add some environment variables. So we know that Spring, so let me apply this one. So you know that Spring here, because why we need that. So what I will be doing is I will be using AI.OpenAI, and then I need to provide an API key. All right, so for the API key, whether you paste it as a plain text like this, or you can use environment variables. I already showed that in so many different Spring tutorials that I have available on my YouTube channel. So if you don't know about that, just go ahead and check it. So let's go back in here and let's go to edit configuration. So here in the environment variables, you can add it, for example, this way. So here, for example, you can just type OpenAI API key equals, and then you provide the value. All right, so this is how it works. Or you have the option here, so you see this icon, you can click on it, and then you will see the key value, or like the name value, or like the key value environment variable. So here you have OpenAI, and here you have the key. So for my case, I will just go ahead and paste the API key that I already created. So it will be this one. So let me go back in here. So it will be this one. So I will copy it again. So as I mentioned, don't use it because I will revoke it just after finishing this tutorial. So let's go back and let's paste this one. So let's hit OK, and then you can see it here as a plain text. All right. So now let's continue in the first configuration of our Spring project. So here all I need to do is to provide my OpenAI API key. So this is the environment variable, and then we need to provide the model. So then we have chat.options.model. So as you can see here, chat.options and then model. So for the model, if you don't know which one to choose, all you need to do, so let me close this one. You go to documentation, and here you see the list of all the available models that you have. For our case, we will use GPT-4o. All right, so but you can use anyone you want. All right, so let's go back in here, and I will use GPT-4o. So this will be our model. So now we have our basic configuration, or like the initial configuration that we need for our Spring project, or like for our Spring AI project. The first thing I will be doing, I will create a controller. So let me rename this class because I don't like the name. So here, let's just call it AI application, or like Spring AI application, and rename it, and done. All right, so let's close this one. And then the first thing that we will be doing is we'll create a first controller. All right, so here I will create a first controller. So the application, or the idea of this demo, it will be about recipes. All right, so like I want to communicate with an AI model, or with my ChatGPT, LLM, and so on and so forth, call it whatever you want, in order to suggest some recipes. All right, so here I will create a recipes controller. So all this is classic, so like nothing really fancy in here. All I need to do is to add a REST controller and request mapping. So we'll call it /recipes, for example. And here, the first thing I need first to provide, or to inject, my chat client. So here I will add private final chat client. So for example, you can also like use Lombok with the required args constructor annotation, and you don't need to create the constructor. But on this case, for this chat client, I think it has changed since the first version that it was released. So I will show you, and I will also try to update and provide you with new updates if anything changes in the future. So I will create a constructor in here. So I will create an empty one, and in here I will just add a chat client dot builder. So here we have a builder. So let's call it chat client builder. And then all I need to do is to initialize my chat client with chat builder. So let me close this one, and let me also make this one full screen. All right. So here we initialized our chat client. So when we start up the application, this one, it will be executed, and we will initialize, or like we will inject this chat client in here. All right, so let's create our first endpoint. So the first endpoint, I will just create a public string suggest recipe. And for this suggest recipe, I will use a request param. So here I will add a request parameter. and I will make it required false, but I will do it in a different way. So first I will give it a name. So let's call it a message, just an example. And then I will add a default value. So here I will just say suggest a recipe for dinner, for example. All right, and here I will just call this one message instead of ingredient, and let's move on to the next. All right, so now how can we communicate or discuss, if you want to call it this way, or chat with the model? So it's really simple. So first I will just return this .chat client, and then we have a method called prompt. So this method, we have like 3 implementations: an empty one, another one that takes a prompt. We will see that in a few moments, or like later on in this video. And we can also provide a prompt with a string content. So in this case, we will use a prompt just without anything. And here we have user. So here, don't worry, I will explain what .user means and what all the available options that we have in here. So for the user, I will add message and then call and then content. All right, so what will this mean? So this will prepare prompt, and then we will add a user message, because we have different types of messages, or like different types of messages. Let's call them this way right now, and I will explain everything later on. And then we want to call it. Once we receive the response from the model, we want to extract or like to return the content. All right, so let's have a look on these different things. So here, as I mentioned, always try to download sources so you can get the full picture of that. So here you can see that we have a prompt. It's a default chat client request specification, or like spec, and we pass the default chat client request. So let's not dive too much for now in this. But the first thing I would like to do, let's start up our application and let's go and try out this one. But before, let's not to forget this get mapping, and let's call it maybe suggest recipe. So suggest recipe. So this means when we hit this endpoint /recipe/suggest recipes, whether if we provide a message, so like a prompt, otherwise it will automatically use this one as a default value. But here we know that it suggests a recipe, but it's fine that we can pass any other message, and the AI model will respond with that. So let me start up my application, and then I will open Postman. All right, so let's go back and make sure that everything started fine. So here we have the application started in 1.blah seconds. So it's already available and we can start testing it. And of course, the application is available on the port 8080. So let's go back to Postman and let's create a new request. So our URL, it will be HTTP. So let me take any one of these and then let's call it suggest recipe. I think I have something similar here. And now all I want to do is to pass, or like just to send a request. So I will send a request, and here we have the parameters, and we will see the response in here. So I just sent the request without anything. So like I did not specify or like precise anything. And here we see the response. So sure, here a recipe for lemon herb, blah blah blah. So here these are the response, or like these are the ingredients and how to cook it, and these instructions, and so on and so forth. So like it's exactly the same as you are chatting with ChatGPT on the UI. But here let's precise a different message. So here, how is the weather like today in Stuttgart, for example, or like in Stuttgart, Germany? All right, so let's send the request and see what will be the response about this one. So I'm unable to provide real-time weather updates for the current weather in Stuttgart. I recommend checking the reliable weather website or app. So keep this one in mind, because we will need it, whether later on in this video or like in a different one, because I will teach you how we can also like provide some context and data to our LLM. All right, so here there is something that I would like to highlight. So here we have, if you see the URL in here, or for example, let's assume that you are creating a recipe suggester or like a recipe application, like an application that you want, or like you allow the user to communicate or to chat with the model, with the AI model, in order to focus or like to discuss about recipes and about food. But here, if I provide a message this way, okay, so I'm getting an answer, but all right, so let's try a different one. Okay, explain Spring framework in 3 lines, for example. If I send this one, it will provide me a response. So the Spring framework is a comprehensive, modular, and open source application, and so on and so forth. So like this is the response from the AI. But as you can see in here, it's about recipes. It's not about coding. It's not about Spring. It's not about anything else. It's only about recipes. So here we have something like, here we talk about prompting. All right. So we talk about prompts. So prompts is something really important when we talk about AI. All right. So when we talk about chatting or communicating with an AI model. So let's dive and let's see what is a prompt, what are the different roles of prompts, and how Spring really supports this part. All right, so let's move on and continue to that part. All right, so first let's understand what is a prompt. So in the context of AI and large language models or LLMs, a prompt is the input or instruction given to the model to generate a response. So it can be a question, a command, statement, or block of text that guides the model's input. So prompts are crucial because the way they are phrased directly influences the relevance, accuracy, and tone of AI response. Crafting effective prompts, often called prompt engineering, is a key to getting useful and precise results from an LLM. So then, let's understand and let's see why prompt engineering matters. So prompt engineering, it has several advantages. First of all, it improves the accuracy because well-crafted prompts reduce ambiguity and leading to more accurate and useful responses. And it also saves time. So clear instructions reduce back and forth interactions. So every time you are accurate and you provide the correct prompt, you will save a lot of time. Also, it enhances control. So better prompts allow users to guide tone, format, or style of the output. And also it enables complex tasks. So with good prompts, LLMs can perform step-by-step reasoning, summarizing, coding, and more. And finally, it customizes the responses. Prompts can be tuned for specific audience or technical depth. So now when we talk about prompting, and mainly now let's go back and focus a little bit about prompting, and also let's combine it with Spring. Here we talk mainly about 4 types of prompts, or like 4 roles for prompting. The first one is system role. So the purpose of system role is to set the behavior, personality, and boundaries of the assistant. So this is what we saw before previously about when we asked our AI or like our chat model that we built together using Spring to provide or like to give me the weather or like to explain Spring, but the application or like our main application is mainly about recipes. All right, so here we need to provide some system role. All right, so also when to use it. So when to use system role. So at the beginning of a conversation to define how the model should respond throughout. All right, so we want to make or like we want to give some more context or some more information to our model to be precise about the conversation. Let's move on and see the next role. So the next one is the user role. So the user role is the example that we saw before together. So its purpose is to represent input for the end user, typically questions, instructions, or requests. And when to use it, it's any time the user interacts with the assistant or asking for prompting. The next one is assistant role. So this assistant role is very important and we will see it in action later on. So the purpose of the assistant role, it represents a response generated by the assistant or the LLM in the context of a chat history, because what we implemented before is it's just one single message, but the LLM or the model does not remember the full chat context or like the full context of our chat history. And when we use it, so when you want to provide contextual history of previous assistant replies to guide the next output. And finally, we have function role. So the purpose of function role is used when the model calls a function as supported by OpenAI function calling or tool usage, and when to use it. And I will give you also like an example that we saw together. So when integrating the model with external tools or APIs, for example, retrieving data, calling a calculator, and so forth. And one example is when we asked the model about the weather. So it was not able to give us a response. So in this case, we have two options, whether to link or like to provide a function for our AI to call a different API to fetch the result from there, or we can give it a function, for example, that has predefined answers for our case. So now let's dive in and let's move on to the different to this and see in action these different roles. But before we move on, if you want to learn more and to know the OpenAI guidelines about prompting, just go to this link and I will provide it in the description of this video. Just go to platform.openai/docs or like simply click on this documentation, and here you will see core concepts and then click on text and prompting. So here it will give you so many valuable information about choosing the model, prompt engineering, message roles, and so forth. This one is really important, and I really recommend and I highly recommend that you have a look on it. So now let's go back to our IntelliJ and let's continue our implementation, and let's see the different roles that we can provide. So the first thing that we will see the system role. All right, so how we can provide more context, or like how we can give a scope to our LLM. So first thing, I will create a new class and I will call it, for example, Seafood Recipe Controller. Here I will just copy these annotations from here. So this is our controller, and also I will copy this one. All right, so just to initialize our chat client. So here let me change the constructor and everything is fine. All right, so the first thing that I would like to do is I will create the same endpoint, or I will copy paste the same endpoint from here. So from recipe controller, I will just copy this one just to move on a little bit faster, and then we will continue on implementing and changing what needs to be changed. So I will keep this one or our request parameter as suggest a recipe for dinner. All right, but here I will add a system message. So I will add a final string system message, and I will give it the following prompt. All right, I will give it, or like I will tell my LLM to suggest a recipe, suggest seafood recipe, and then I will add it, I will give it an instruction in here. So if someone asks about anything else, so ask about, or like let's say something else, just say, and then here I will provide what to respond. Just say I don't know. All right, so this is our prompt, or this is our system prompt. All right, so maybe let me make it this way and this way. All right, so here, so you can see everything fully. So this is our system message, maybe. All right, so then what we need to do, we need to provide a system message, or like a system context. So here you see this is the user. This one we will see it also later on. And this is the basic one. So like all the requests are like user requests or like user prompts. But in here, we can also provide a system. All right, a system message. So for the system message, we have two options, or like we have also several options, whether we provide a string, a resource, or a consumer, or a resource text, or like text resource. So for example, if we decide to put this prompt in in a file and just provide it to our LLM or like to our code right here. So here I will also like show you like how to use the consumer. So let's say just C for a consumer, and then it will be a lambda expression, and then C.text and our system message simply. So like here you see that two different ways to do that. So now if I start my application, all right, so here I will just change the controller and I will add C food to be more precise. And then if I start my application and I go to this endpoint and ask for anything else, so if I ask it to suggest a recipe for dinner, or like without providing the message, it will suggest something with seafood or like seafood recipe. It will not go out of the context. If I ask about Spring, for example, as we did before, it will say, or like it should say, I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and start the application, and let's go ahead and test this one. So the application is up and running. So let's go and open Postman. I will just duplicate this tab right here, and here suggest recipe or like recipe, and then slash seafood, and then suggest recipe. So let's remove the message for now. Let's just click on send. So here I'm expecting that the model of the application should respond with a recipe for seafood. And as you can see, how about trying a simple and delicious garlic butter shrimp recipe? Oh my God, this is my favorite one. So here you see the ingredients and the instructions. But now let's bring back our message and ask about Spring Framework, for example. Normally it should respond with I don't know. Let's go ahead and send it, and let's see. Here we have I don't know. So what we did in here, when we used the system role, we provided a more context, or like we provided more precision to our LLM, or like to our AI model. We instructed our AI model to only respond about something related to recipe. So if someone asks about something else, just say I don't know. So this is like, you might say this is not technical. We did not anything, or we did not add or provide anything really technical. But as I mentioned before, it's all about prompting when we talk about AI models. So it's really about prompting. All right. So here we see that with this prompt, we gave more context to our AI. So this is really important to know the prompting, and also like to know the different roles of prompting. So this is the first one. So what about also, okay, so let me give you another example before we move on. So here I will just remove the message again. And here it will respond, or like it should respond with a recipe about seafood. All right, so like it's a different one. And now let's bring back the message, and let's assume that I'm allergic to garlic, for example. All right, so here, because it's like lemon garlic butter, so I will just tell the AI, or like I will just add a new message, or like send a new message to the AI model to tell that I am allergic to garlic. So like it should not, or like it should propose another recipe for seafood but without garlic. But let's see what will happen in here. So here we are sending the request, and let's see. So I understand here garlic-free seafood recipe you might enjoy. So what I want to do is I will just restart the application, and like just to reinitialize everything, and see what will happen if I provide a message with I'm just allergic to garlic. All right, and let's see what will happen again. So let's send the request again, and let's see the response. So I understand, let's make sure to create seafood recipe. So like there is something really important. It just analyzed the prompt, and here I'm allergic to garlic, which is like kind of abstract. It's not really precise, but we got an answer. So now what if we want to, for example, to remove the salmon fillet, or like to remove, I don't know, like remove the olive oil. So here, let's say remove the olive oil from the recipe, from the previous suggested recipe. And let's see how the LLM, or like how the model will respond to that. It says, I don't know. So here there is something really important. So like the AI model does not remember the whole chat, or like the whole communication, or the history of our communication, because we got a first response, or like a first suggestion. But when I asked the AI, or like the model, to remove the olive oil from the recipe, it said just I don't know. So let's move on and see how we can provide more context to this one. All right, so I will just create a new controller in here. So for this one, I will call it recipe chef controller. So like I want to communicate or like to discuss or like to have a conversation with my model. So let me paste the annotations. So for this one, let's also give it /recipe/chef, for example, to be more precise. And I will also paste this one. So let's change the constructor. And here I will just add I would think also have it in here, our get mapping. So this one. All right. So we have everything set up, and let's provide or like what we need to provide more. So the first thing I will here let me guide you step by step. So the first thing, I will have a private final list of message. So here, as you can see, the message, we should use the one from org/spring-framework.ai.chat.messages, not another one. All right. So here, let's call this one conversation. So this is our conversation with the model. And then in the constructor, I will just initialize. So this .conversations is a new array list. All right. So now I will just go and copy my system message, the one that we have in here. So this is my system message. I want always to provide context to my LLM. So this is my system message. And then now it's just a string. All right. So like, so here I will call it system message string. And now I will create a final, and we have an object called system message provided by string. So it's a new system message, and let's have a look on this one. So let's download the source. And here system message extends abstract message, and this one, it implements an interface called message. And here just we have a method called get message type. So I will dive deeper in a different video to the different classes provided by Spring. So now all I need to do is to add my system message to the conversation. All right. So now here, as I mentioned before, we will see the assistant message. All right. So like here, we want to see the assistant role that we spoke about it before. So in here, I will keep everything as is. So like the message is the same and everything, the default value is also the same. So now I want to create another message. So final message, and I will call it user message. All right. So user message equals new user message of message, and I want to pass the prompt, or like let's call it prompt. So I want to pass the prompt as a parameter to my user message. The first thing, I need to add this to the conversation, because this will be the new message or the conversation that I would like to chat, or like I would like to send to my model. Let me remove this return, and I will add it later on. So now, instead of using user and so forth, so instead of using the user, we have an option called messages. All right. And here we can pass a list of messages. So we will pass the conversation. So this conversation, or like this array list, will hold or will save the history of the conversation with our AI. All right. So here, let's say final, another message, and let's call it assistant message. All right. Assistant message equals new assistant message. And here, so for this one, let's also store it in string model response. So let's store it in a variable, and I will create my assistant message out of this model response. It's always I would like to keep or like to save the conversation. So this .conversation .add assistant message, and finally I would like to return the model response. So now, so here it's just claiming that the model response might be null or like empty, but we don't care about that since we know that we will have a response. So here, what do we have? We have, so let's resume before moving to testing. So here we created a new controller, and we have our chat client as we had before. What we added as a plus is we want to preserve the conversation. All right. So we created a list of messages, or like a list of this message object, which is the interface that we saw in here. And this interface is implemented by user message to response system and assistant message, as you can see, and also abstract message. So Here, first we provided a system message to our conversation to give more context to the AI. So this one, it's kind of hidden in the conversation. So like it's not something that we will send really, but it will be of course sent to the LLM or to the AI model, but in an invisible or like in a hidden way. All right. So that's why we want to add it always as the first one. And then when we receive the message from the user, we want to create a user message. And then we want always also to add it to the conversation. Then we want to prompt the AI. We want to send this conversation or like this history of conversation to our AI model. And then how to do that is the same chat client.prompt. And then we have also other than user message or like system message and so on and so forth, we have a list of messages as you can see in here. So here as you can see, so whether we pass a list or an array of messages or like messages separated, like comma separated messages. And then when we receive the response, we want to make it or like to create out of that model response, because this is the assistant, because we want to tell the AI that was your reply, that was the answer that you provided. So when I ask the model the next time to remove the olive oil or like to remove any ingredient, for example, it should know that that was my response. So like now the AI is talking. So that was my response. So I need to remove the olive oil from that response. All right. Not to remove it from anywhere else. And then of course, once we have, or like once we receive it, we want also to save it and to preserve this assistant message. And finally, we just return the response from the AI model. So now let's go ahead, run the application again. And now let's test this new endpoint /recipe/chef/suggest recipe. So let's go back to Postman and let's duplicate this tab once again. So here, instead of seafood, let's call it chef, and I will remove the message and just send it as it is. So like we have already the default prompt. So now let's see. All right, so here we have a response. So now maybe let's ask the AI to change salmon with shrimps, for example. So let's add a message in here. I prefer something with shrimps. So let's click. All right, so here we see that we have another response or like another suggestion from the AI model. So in this way, we gave the ability or the possibility to the model just to preserve the conversation or like to save the history of our conversation. So the AI model will always remember what we discussed earlier. So as we saw in this video, prompting is really important. So like we saw the different, what prompting is, why it really matters, why prompting engineering or like prompt engineering really matters. And also we saw how we can implement like few examples like system, user prompting, system prompting, and also assistant prompting to our AI model. So the next step is to talk about something which is really, really important. So what about parsing the data? So here I get the response. So here I have a response, but what if I want my response to be, for example, compatible with a Pojo that I have in my application. So I want, for example, to have a record that contains some information, and I want the response to be exactly, or like I want my application to respond with a JSON response instead of a text. So this is also something that we will dive into in the coming part. All right, so we saw so many things about how to communicate with the AI, how to send prompts, how to provide history, assistant, system messages, and so on and so forth. But what if we want to have the output presented in some way, like in a specific way, as a list, as a map, as a specific bean, and so on and so forth, or like even a list of beans, or like a list of objects. So Spring already provides something that supports us with that. I will guide you step by step how to implement that. So here I have a package. I created a package called output, and I will create a new controller, and I will call it recipe suggester controller. So that this will be a controller that suggests some recipes based on an ingredient. All right. So here let's add request mapping. So recipe / suggester, I like the name. And in here we will have, so maybe let me paste, yes, this one. So let's change the constructor in here and everything should be fine. So the first thing, what if we want to output our result as a list? All right, so here I will have, or like I will add a get mapping. I will leave it empty and I would like to return a list of string, not list model, but list from Java util and a list of string. So here, for example, let's say suggest recipe from ingredient. All right, so here I will ask, or like I will request a request parameter, and I will have like I will call it ingredient, and here let's say, for example, shrimp, or like shrimps, and let's call it string ingredient. All right, next step is I want to prepare my message. So here message equals, and all right, so here this is my prompt. Please suggest me the best 10 dishes containing the ingredient. And here, instead of using %s or like string formatting, we want to use this representation. So here I will add ingredient. So this is how we can pass a prompt, or like how we can pass a parameter to a prompt template later on. So like I will explain it in a few seconds, just after finishing this prompt. So just say, I don't know. I don't know if you don't know the answer. All right. And then something very important. So here we have, all right. So here something very important. We need to pass, or like to provide the format. All right. So we have our message in here. So now let's check out, or let's see the first converter that we have. I will create a final list output converter. So this output converter, or like this list output converter, so let's call it list output converter equals new list output converter. And here we need to pass a parameter which is of type conversion service. So let's use the default conversion service for now. We will dive, as I mentioned before, we will dive later on a little bit deeper into these converters and all the Spring AI classes. So now, in order to pass this ingredient parameter and this format parameter, I need to create a prompt template. So here I want to create a prompt template. So let's call it prompt template equals new prompt template. And here we can pass a message, and as well as we can pass a map.of, or like a map of, we can pass a map of parameters. All right. So as you can see here, ingredient references this one. And now I would like to pass my ListOutputConverter.get format. So this is how the format will be. But of course we need this one. So this one will be format. And now let's first have a look at this get format method. So this get format method, it will simply add another, or like a new prompt, or like an extra prompt to our AI model. So it says here, respond with only a list of comma separated values without any leading or trailing text. Example, format, boo, bar, and buzz. All right, so let's go back and finish the implementation. So now we have our prompt template. Simply, I will create a response string equals this.chatClient.prompt. And here we can pass our prompt template.create. So this create method, it will create a prompt, as you can see here. So then we just need to, we need to call the prompt, and then we get the content as we did before. So now we have everything. So now how to return this one? Simply call this ListOutputConverter.convert this response. So it will take the response provided by the model and convert it into a list of strings. So let's restart our application and just let's go ahead and try it out. So I will open Postman in here, and here, so I will just remove the message. And if I click on send, we will see the list of the 10 dishes, like for shrimp, which is the default value, represented in a list. So if we try with ingredient, for example, we will also like see a new list. So now let's move on and see the next type of converters, which is map converter. So here I will just duplicate this method. So let me duplicate this method, and here let me call it, for example, so first let's say I would like to list all the dishes by country. So like I would like to display the country name and the dish, like the country and the dish name. All right. So here, let's say maybe by country. All right. So I just need to make some adjustments to my prompt. So please suggest me the best 10 dishes containing, so like, or like maybe the best dishes. Let's not specify it with a number, but let's say, please suggest me the best dishes containing the ingredient. So now I would like to add something. So include the country of origin as a key, for example, and the dish name as a value. All right. And then just say, I don't know, and so on and so forth. So here, instead of ListOutputConverter, so here I just need to change the return type to a map of type string and object. All right, so like it should be a string and object value. So here we have another converter called MapOutputConverter, and here equals new MapOutputConverter, and we don't need any extra parameters to pass. So the prompt, so this one, let me rename it to MapOutputConverter, and here prompt template stays the same, also the prompt, and so on and so forth. So here we have MapOutputConverter.convert. Let's have a look on this get format. So the get format, it will add, as I explained before, this extra prompt. So your response should be in JSON format. The data structure for the JSON should match this Java class, which is %s. So like the class is the hashmap.class. All right. So do not include any explanations, only provide a compliant JSON response following the format without deviation, and remove the backtick, or like this 3 backtick JSON markdown surrounding the output, including the trailing backtick. All right. So let's go ahead, restart the application, and let's test this output. So here we said it will be by country. So if we go back to Postman, let me remove this, and here let's say /country, and let's click on Save. So now we should see an output in a map format, or in a map representation. So we have the country as a key and the dish name as the value. So this is how we can convert our output to a map representation. So now we still need, or like we still have another thing. So now let's say that I want to add, or like to create a public record. So let's call it recipe. So the recipe, I want to have the name, country, and then, for example, an int calories. So I want to display the name of the dish, the country of origin, and how many calories this dish contains. Let's duplicate this method. And now let's say, for example, I will call this one best. So I will only ask for the best dish. So suggest best recipe from ingredient, and that's it. So now I just need to change a little bit the prompt. So please suggest me the best dish instead of dishes containing the ingredient, and so on and so forth. So here include, let me remove this one. So include the dish name, country of origin, and the number of calories in that dish. For example, in that dish. If you don't know, just say I don't know, and so on and so forth. So here, instead of returning a map, I would like to return a recipe, like the record I just created. So here also, instead of using a map converter, we have an object called BeanOutputConverter equals new BeanOutputConverter in here. And here we need to provide the class. So here it's a parameterized class. So here it will be recipe. So a BeanOutputConverter of type recipe equals new BeanOutputConverter of type recipe dot class. All right. Again, the prompt template stays as is, and this one I will just rename it to BeanOutputConverter, And first of all, let's have a look at this format string. Your response should be in JSON format. Do not include any explanation, provide compliant JSON, blah, blah, blah. And here, do not include markdown blocks in your response and remove the backticks. And here the JSON schema instance your output must adhere to. So the JSON schema, it points out to this recipe object that we just created and passed as a parameter. All right. So now if we run the application again and we try this /best endpoint, the one that we just created, we should see the output presented as a JSON object containing the fields that we specified. So let's click on send and see what will be the output. So here we see that we have the name, the country, and the number of calories. So this is how Spring is able to convert the response to a bean. All right. But now what if I want to return a list of dishes, all right, presented in this JSON format or like presented as a bean? So let me show you how to do that. I will duplicate again this method. So I will just change the endpoint. Let's call it maybe best list. So here suggest me best recipe from ingredient as list, for example. And here it will be a list of recipe instead of just a single object. So here we just need to change a little bit the prompt. So suggest me the best 10 dishes, for example, or like you just make it dishes. And now the dish contains like the rest stay as is, like we don't need to change it, but in here we need to add something. So as you can see here, so here we can say it's a list of recipe. But how can I pass in here a list of recipes dot class? So like, because this output being converter, if we go here, it contains it takes a class as a parameter. All right. So like, how can I say a list of recipes as a class? So I give more context to this output converter to convert my object or like my result to a list of that. So let me remove this for now and I will just fill it in a few moments. So here I just need to create a parameterized type reference of type list of recipes equals type call. So here I just call it type reference equals new parameterized type reference. So this is type reference. So this is a type. So like I'm exposing a type of list recipe. So now I can pass this type reference as a parameter to my BeanOutputConverter. All right. So now we have a list of recipe, and now this convert method, as you can see, it will return now a list of recipe out of this response. All right. So let's restart the application and let's go ahead and test this final one. All right. So here instead of best, I will just try best list, the new endpoint, and now it should present the list of dishes as a list, like a JSON response, but as a list. So as you can see here, we have Italy, Thailand, shrimp, and so forth presented in a list. All right. So as you saw here, like the examples that we went through all together. So when we want to work with AI, it's not only about creating or like recreating a chatbot or like a chat model to chat with ChatGPT, for example, or any AI model, because this is already provided and you can just go to ChatGPT and chat directly with ChatGPT without creating or like reinventing the wheel once again. But when we code or like when we want to implement an application and we want to provide some more some AI features or like AI power to our application, we want to convert or like to get the data in a well represented way or like in a specific format that we can use it correctly. All right. So in this case, so for example, as we saw, instead of having just a list and then I need to write a specific algorithm to convert that response into a list, I just use the ListOutputConverter from or provided by Spring, as well as, so for example, in case of a MapOutput or like a BeanOutput and so on and so forth. So Spring provides us already with the tools and the necessary classes. So this is still at an early stage, but I'm sure in the future Spring will provide more and more capabilities to best or like for the best usage of the AI. All right, techies. So that was for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and also just leave me in the comments what do you think about what we saw together today. And also, I really would like to know what are the ideas or like crazy ideas that you want to implement by mixing the most powerful framework, Spring framework, within the AI capabilities. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up so we can have this video go more viral and reach more and more people. And I hope you enjoyed it again. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.